What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I am Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me I have some more RPG horror stories. Outside of making RPG horror stories, I want to try making other type of content. One of those things are shorts. I understand not everybody is into shorts and stuff, so I don't want to make them like every single day or anything like that, but I think it'd be kind of fun to maybe find some light stories or a similar thing that I've done with the Loxodon video as well the other day. But anyway, what kind of shorts would you like to see? What kind of shorts do people usually make when it comes to doing D&D content or story content or whatever? I'm gonna think of some ideas myself, but if you have any other suggestions of your own, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Now I'm gonna get to the first story for today. Player almost TPK's entire party, then wants the DM to come up with why his character possibly would have done this. What? The title explains it all, but I'll go into details. The title does not explain anything at all. I have more questions reading a title than ever before. I've been DMing this group for about 4 years now. They were all new at the time, so I decided to run Lost Mine of Fan Delaware for them. Spoiler for that adventure if you've been warned. I never run modules, I never got experience to run modules, but I mean, I'm okay with spoilers. The player had finally arrived at the BBEG's lair, and after his evil speech, the battle breaks out. So far so good. During the fight, our Barbarian, the player this is about, kills 2 giant spiders, which is great. At this point, our wizard is low and has almost no spell slots left. The cleric and the ranger are downed and are rolling death saves. The rogue had just been stunned. At this point, our wizard is low and has almost no spell slots left. The cleric and the ranger are downed and are rolling death saves, and the rogue had just been stunned. This one is just the bard 1v1ing the BBEG, who I had buffed up from the original adventure. So yeah, that could really use the barbarian to either help people up or kill the BBEG. However, the barbarian instead asks the DM, me, to describe the room again, and after I mention that there's 9-foot tall statue of a dwarf seated on a throne located up against the back wall, he asks to make an investigation check. I ask what he's trying to investigate for, and it tells me, I want to investigate to see if I can tip the statue over and have it land on a BBG. I tell him roll, and he rolls an 18. So I tell him, the statue depicting Dumathoin is old and carries 2 shining emerald gems where his eyes are supposed to be. Given that the statue is 9 feet tall and the BBG is currently 35 feet away from you, it's clear you won't be able to tip it over and have it land on a BBG. It also seems too heavy to lift, even for you. As I finish describing this, he tells me, I roll to see if I understand this. Rolls immediately before I can tell him that he already rolled for that. That was the investigation check. He rolls an 11 for this new roll and decides that his character can't understand it. He describes how his character starts trying to push the statue to tip it over. I've never heard somebody rolling again to see if the initial check that they rolled they'll be able to understand. It's like the barbarian doesn't want to have that understanding and just wants to be able to do whatever. Then what's the point of rolling an investigation? I understand if you want to have a character that doesn't understand something that most basic people would. Morrow is not a learned scholar. If you ask him what's the difference between divination and conjuration, he won't be able to tell you. He just knows some spells summon things and some spells do a thing, and that's basically it. Morrow understands the idea of magic and what magic can do or what magic does. He just can't really tell it apart like a professional caster would be able to. Morrow is street smart, so he knows basic general knowledge of stuff. He's not arcane smart or intellectually smart, but he's not an idiot that's gonna just completely foil the party and try to screw party over with his stupidity. He understands the general basics, he just doesn't know everything about magic. And it kind of feels like the barbarian is deciding to play the character as stupid. The kind of stupid that could actually get the party in trouble instead of just be a flavor. It's fine with stupid flavor, it's different when it's stupid mechanically. The fight continues and he keeps pushing at the statue, trying to lodge and push it over, until he eventually lands a nat 20, 3 player turns after the BBEG is defeated. I sigh as I describe how he manages to push it over, the stone cracking and the gems falling out, which according to the adventure triggers a chain reaction that causes the ceiling to collapse, and each player must make a DC 15 dexterity save, or take 4d10 bludgeoning damage, half upon the success. The rogue, the ranger, and the barbarian all fail, while the bard and cleric succeed. The wizard asks if he could misty step out of the room via the open door, so I say yes. The outcome is that only the wizard and the bard got out with more than 5 HP, The cleric got knocked back to 1 HP, but survived. However, the rogue and ranger both straight up died, while the barbarian got knocked unconscious. "You need to figure out why my barbarian would have done this," the barbarian player says. What? The DM has to figure it out? Huh? At this point, everyone is confused and panicking, as the group only has one scroll or revivify and is trying to figure out who to use it on. They're also angry with the barbarian, as he had no reason to do it. When I asked him, he said, "I don't know. Do you have any idea for why? You the DM. You the barbarian. You decided for your character to for some reason push the statue over. The DM didn't make you do it. You did it for your own character. What do you mean? Does the DM know why?" And then Joe came up with a story reason for why his character did it. But I talked to the players afterwards and they were all greatly annoyed at his behavior because it seemed to come out of nowhere, unprompted, with no reason or explanation for why he, as a person, decided it would be what his character would do. To this day, he still won't give an answer other than, "I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why you did it either. I don't think anybody will ever know." It's fine if you want to make your character a little bit, derpy or dumb or whatever, or silly, but like, you can't just completely abandon all sense of reason for your character if your party members, if your friends are getting attacked and they're fighting something. Probably makes sense to go and help them, so instead of trying to push a statue over and then be like, "I don't know." Well, who knows then? Who will know? How about you make a character that does realize what they're doing and maybe have a reason for why they did what they did? The player literally decided to just do something for the sake of doing something without realizing why. Why are you pushing a statue over for 3 turns? We shall never know. DM makes adventuring too expensive. TLDR, we'll promise seafaring adventure and instead end up doing the very sort of things we'll play TTRPGs to get away from. Is this going to be another story where it's like you gotta pay the taxes and file the paperwork and all that stuff like the other day? Oh, well, let's see. I don't want to judge it ahead of time, but I'm worried. Some details have been changed since I am no longer friends with this DM and don't want him stalking my Reddit. This is pretty light as far as horror stories go, but I figured it might serve as a cautionary tale. This DM has been super excited for a while to run a seafaring exploration-based sandbox campaign and rounded up myself and a few others to play. This DM had previously run the best campaign I've ever played in and was super excited about the setting he had planned for the next one. So even though the system wasn't the sort of thing I normally play, I was hyped for this. The game starts with our ship wrecked upon an island that hosts an independent city-state. We were taken to the head magistrate of the city-state and were told we could stay, but that we would have to spend all of our starting cash on work documents to be allowed to live and work here. We were going to start an adventure, but we were willing to give the DM the benefit of the doubt. If adding work documents or any sort of other documents or paperwork in your D&D game or any TTRPG game, if it doesn't add anything mechanically fun, what's the point of having it? It's simply just a time sink. You're gonna have a time sink, it better be a fun time sink instead of paperwork. And then the DM pulls out the calculator and starts telling us how much rent for an apartment for our characters is gonna cost, how much we need to spend on food each day, etc. And then lists a bunch of menial, low-paying jobs our characters can do to make money, though with the promise that we might get promotions later and be paid slightly more. How exciting. Again, very weird start for one of his pitches a seafaring sandbox campaign, but maybe he is going somewhere with this. Yeah, he's going to Boring Town, USA, population no one because nobody wants to be in Boring Town, USA. Paperwork and all the bills and everything. Right? Like, I don't want to do bills in D&D, dude. I already have to deal with bills and stuff IRL. I want to have fun seafaring adventure, go on crazy adventures with my friends. I don't want to have to do paperwork and taxation and spending habits and everything and budgeting myself because I have to pay for my utilities and everything. Dude, this sounds boring. It was not going anywhere fun with this. The majority of the first session was spent describing our characters' lives in the city day by day in grueling detail. How we worked on menial jobs, making us roll how well we did lest we get fired, how much we spent on living expenses, and what little we could save at the end of each day. Towards the end of the session, we finally got something approaching a plot hook when one of the characters rolled particularly well at his job and overheard some co-workers talking about a tiny island some distance away, where there was supposedly treasure to be found. Bingo! But remember, dear readers, that our ship has been destroyed at the start of the first session. There was no way our characters could afford a new one on our meager salaries. We eventually figured out through some skill checks that we could hire ship and crew to take us to this island. And again, the DM laid out in excruciating detail all the cost this would entail on a crew and supply. Should take him aside right then, but we were just so excited to have something resembling a plot hook. This does not sound like a plot hook. This sounds like the most boring, most menial. Video games that have like simulator and stuff don't have this much realism. Games that have simulator or like simulated kind of experience, they are way more fun than this is. Well, at this point, I would just steal a boat. Just rob it like a tiny little boat and just go on an adventure. That sounds way more fun and exciting than having to do paperwork and having to work through corporate ladder in order to potentially get a promotion so you can make for your 9 to 5, and only to be happy that you get a promotion with slightly different working hours that are probably worse anyway, and a 15-cent raise for your overall. This sounds boring, dude. This sounds extremely boring. I hope the DM turns it around, but the story kind of cuts off at the last paragraph, so let's see what happens. Next session begins. Does he skip ahead to where we saved up enough to charter a ship and head to the island? Nope. More dull descriptions of uneventful days. Towards the middle of session 2, the other players and I start to grumble. It would take weeks in game to save up for this, and at the rate we're going, that means multiple sessions of nothing but roleplay equivalent of TV static. The DM assured us he had a plan and asked that we just hold out a little longer. We must not have had a lot of confidence in the plan, because no session 3 was ever scheduled. If your players ask for something exciting, don't just keep dangling like on a keychain. Say, keep going, session 3. Oh, you didn't get it? Don't worry, session 4, you'll definitely get it. Session 4 didn't get it. Session 5 is guaranteed to have it. No. If players want something fun and exciting, just do the thing. You are running the game and you have the ability to change things in any way you want, in any way you see fit, in order to have a fun experience for yourself and for your players. I don't see anybody that can have fun watching the players do taxes. This is too painful to be a realistic life simulator in a TTRPG. This is not fun. Don't do this. Seriously. I kind of feel like we need a little bit of a change of pace and a little bit more of a glory story. So we're actually gonna go ahead and read some email submitted glory stories for today. Operation Rebel Trouble Trio. So Morrow, I know you're looking for some glory stories. I wrote this one a couple of years ago and decided to update it a tiny bit to make it a little bit clearer to read. Hopefully you enjoy reading it, and if you end up reading it and want to shout out the writer, just call me Elliot Ness, not my actual name. Just like the story of the Untouchables. Anyway, story below. This is a story that took place 2 years ago, with the group I'm still with running a new Star Wars campaign. The way it started is that basically only half of us could show up for session when we were running D&D 5e. A combination of 3 people dealing with health and life issues, so the 3 of us that were left were posed by the DM the choice of doing 2 different one-shots, one of which was set in a fantasy world we were doing our main campaign in, and one which was set in the Star Wars universe. So obviously we picked Star Wars. Now, while we normally play D&D 5e, this particular one-shot was set up in Genesis as a system, which you don't have to know too much about to enjoy the story, I hope. But if you got any questions, feel free to ask. If he can't answer them, I promised my GM I'd share this with him, so if he wants to be in the comments he can, or he can just relay the info through me. The mission. We are 3 rebel sergeants who've been tasked with infiltrating a small empire base on a crappy snow world in the middle of nowhere. Some intelligence is reported hidden in there, and the rebels want their hands on it ASAP. So we get in, get the info, and get out through any means necessary. Reports say we've seen signs of AT-STs, chicken leg tank-like vehicles for those who don't want to Google, in the area, but can't confirm its presence. So enter the good guys. Sergeant Andriel, male human leader of the group, with all the basic setup you need to be an okay leading. Take shots for the team, tanky frontliner. Sergeant Lantroval, female Twi'lek medic, doing all the medic-y things with high intelligence. Sergeant Han Mal, male Duro sniper, doing all the long-range bang-bang shooty-shoot. Anyway, the way we chose characters is basically by dice roll. First person to choose wanted the medic. Second person chose wanted the sniper. That means I got to be the leader. Yay! No, I do not like playing the leader in most games. Game start! There's an anti-air on top of the base, so we set down a kilometer or so outside from the base. Our sniper has got macro binoculars and managed to catch sight of the base from there and sees 2 stormtroopers stationed outside. So we sneak up until we're about 300 meters out and find there's more cover. I bury my hand in the snow and realize it's deep enough that we can actually sneak up and coordinate a takedown on the 2 stormtroopers. Just make sure we time it so that one rotating camera doesn't see them getting knocked out. Remember, crappy base, so less security. So I managed to coordinate a decent enough takedown outside of vision, and me and Sniper Dude decided to start cosplaying stormtroopers who found a Twi'lek just sneaking around in the middle of nowhere. Managed to infiltrate into the base, and we come up upon our first real conflict to deal with. The first officer sat at the welcome desk. "What's up, guys? I see you got some baggage." "Yeah, we're just taking her to the dungeon to have some words. Found out her sneaking outside." Dude gets a little antsy, so he calls in 2 other guards to back us up, bringing her down. I'll go deep in character, calling him a pussy being scared of a Twi'lek. So as we're heading out, I try to motion to Mr. Sniper to be ready to sneak a shot on those 2 other guards as soon as we can find a place to do so outside of vision of cameras. But we were wearing stormtrooper helmets, so he doesn't get the message and just gives me a "huh" expression. Well, we left Lantroval's handcuffs loose in case she needs to be ready for combat. So I sneak her back her handgun and we round the corner out of vision of the camera. Pop, pop! And I get lucky in that super loud laser fire is somehow muffled by the dude's own flesh and how hard pressed up against him, so no one hears it. Thank God. We can continue sneak filtrating this place. After that, we get to the elevator and find was theirs but now ours, code cylinders, security access keys for those who don't want to Google. I don't have the authorization to go down to the floor we need to, as chances are what we're looking for is on the lowest level and only officers and above can get down there with their keys. So we concoct some cockamamie story about why the elevators are out. The 3 of us look between us and lo and behold, our sniper's got the most silver tongue out of all of us. So Sniper Bro goes off to schmooze up the officer at the desk and tells him we need his cylinder because ours isn't working properly for some reason. And the level of schmooze was barely just enough that the dude, who clearly hates his day job, just hands it to him and says, "Look, just give it back when you're done." No shooty bang bang necessary. So we head down to the 3rd floor and come out of this area with tons of 9-to-5ers, a bunch of scientist dudes who look way too bored with their job and way too I don't give a hoot about anything else going on to even care that anyone just walked out of the elevator that may be kinda suspicious. So we start trekking along and we see the security room down to the left. Mainframe must be nearby. Now, this is where the story starts picking up real steam. We're smart enough to know the mainframe's gotta have some security on it, so maybe it's a good idea to head on to security first and see if we can do something about it. We open the door with our Twi'lek buddy hanging out of sight, handcuffs having once more been applied in case we need to try a super awesome amazing fake story, and oh boy, security is packed. 2 technicians packing heat, 2 stormtroopers, but that's not the terrifying bit. We see a dude with black armor, and we know black armor equals bad armor. One look at his medal and we know it's a captain, so we all like, why the frick is a captain just out in the middle of a nowhere post USA? Of course we can't. Anyway, we start blasting these dudes, right? So instead, the following dialogue takes place. Technician: "Yes sir, the 2 guards stationed outside haven't yet returned to their post." Captain: "Obviously just so done with being here. That's what's wrong with stormtroopers nowadays. No work ethic at all." And then turns to finally recognize we're standing at the door. You 2. I need you to go check on," insert the stormtroopers' IDs, "and see what's going on with them." Me panicking because we are literally wearing the armor. Han panicking for the moment, they just says, "Screw it. Certainly, sir. But we were coming down here because our cylinders weren't working and we caught a prisoner. We need to get up to the correct floor, so we need some help getting there." That's right. Super awesome Mega Lie Part 2. On a captain that's far more adept at figuring out bluffs than a random schmuck not paid to care enough, Lantroval starts acting like she is struggling to get free. I back up with some bull about how the Empire must have given us the crappiest electronics in a bunch. We barely managed to convince him I'll coordinate a bull special attack to go check on the elevator with 2 technicians, and he tells us to stay there with our prisoner until he gets back. Basically, he leaves us 3 with only 2 stormtroopers between us and all of their security, and the bulkhead doors of security are soundproof. They proceed to shove with the most satisfying click we all have probably heard in our life. So anyway, we started blasting. 3 shots later and the 2 stormtroopers are down. We find out how bad the technicians' work ethic is because they don't window key plus L or even control alt delete logged systems. So we're sitting there with full access to all the controls. Our super intelligent medic starts deactivating all the security measures, but as we go on to deactivate the cameras, we see all 3 of those we sent out going forward the elevator and get a sinister idea. They enter the elevator and then start opening the panel, and all of a sudden, the entire elevator shuts down on them. Shortly after, Captain starts trying to speak into this talkie, realizes it's not working, looks up at the camera, starts trying to talk again, looks down at the talkie, up at the camera, and even behind the helmet we can't see that realization coming right before we deactivate the cameras. So as we're laughing it up, having shut down all security, all internal comms are basically temporarily clipped the entire base. So we head to the mainframe, download all the necessary data with ease, and pull the camera data into a separate MPEG file saying upload this to HoloNet immediately. Obviously we can't get back up through the elevator, but as we're looking for a way out, we see the words garage. Hopefully they got some sick vehicles and a garage door exit in there, right? So we open it, and we see the most glorious pair of metal chicken legs. In the room are 2 unarmed civilian engineers. Yes sir, I finished preparing the ATST, but for some reason I couldn't put my tools up. I went too, and the lockers were all locked out of me. Fine, I guess that's a good reason to not put them away. What the hell's even going on with security right now? We all 3 look at each other, shrug, and I walk forward with my weapon raised. No idea. But whatever it is, I bet it sucks for the 2 of you right now. They're panicking as we handcuff him to a couple of poles, and Han Mal makes up some story about the captain coming down at any moment, hearing there's a traitor in the mist, and plan on interrogating both of them. Immediately, the 2 of them point at each other and go, "He did it!" and start trying to blab about each other's HoloNet search histories. As much as I would have loved to have stated HoloNet search histories? Like what, browser history? As much as I would have loved to have stayed and heard about those salacious interests for lols, we had an ATST to commandeer, and commandeer we did. Trudging along out there like the 3 baddest heroes as we'll make it back to transport ship and head back to our own little slice of space heaven. Now the story could have ended there, but our DM wanted to know if we wanted a little epilogue, a 30-minute short end to the story, and you know what? With our combined level of shenaniganry, we figured it can't be much harder than what we just did, right? We make it back to our ship, being lauded as heroes, watching people play our clip over and over, finding out it already got like 300k views in 20 minutes, and a flame war already started in the comments. Our commander sets us down and debriefs us. We find out that we did, as expected, an exemplary job finding out all his information, and that he plans to put in a recommendation for all of us for some much needed R&R once we're on the terra firma once more. We'll find out what he stole was released to some new robotic soldiers, apparently called Dart Troopers, which dates the era this took place in, obviously, and that day still had more to go through, but we could go ahead and get to the cafe for some food, and probably us recounting our tale of glory to the rest of the crew. And then, boom, 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 our ship gets rocked. Needless to say, we're all a little worried. The commander gets a call from the bridge. "Sir, reports that we've been fired by an Empire destroyer. Communication from engineering is that we're suffering from some damages, can enter in hyperdrive. Plus the escape pods seem to have gone offline." The commander takes a moment before looking at us with a sigh. "Well, let's get you some R&R, but looks like we need y'all once more. Go down to engineering and help them figure out what the problem is. Chances are Empire's gonna try to board us shortly as well, and I bet that's where they like to start taking over." So we hop to it. Start charging down to the engineering, seeing little fires bursting up and everyone screaming their heads off. We get to a scene of a much larger bit of destruction, a bigger fire, and a few people look like heavily dressed. Our medic starts hopping to try to help him, and I start looking to help her, but due to basically the almost highest level of success, she basically starts hyperspeed healing people, and I'm like, well, screw that, I can't do anything here. So me and Hanmal start coordinating getting the fire put out. Works so fast and efficiently that we end up getting a small squadron to follow us down and open up a faster path to the engineering bay. We get down there, and everything is a mess. People look like they've been drowned. No one knows what the heck's going on with a core that's clearly whining like it's on last legs at this point. Lantrova starts healing folk and works a freaking miracle. Out of character, she rolled the equivalent of nat 20, while I start looking around for where we can fight from. There's a vantage point up in some rafters, so I order Hanmao and whoever our soldiers think they got good eyesight to take the ground there, and I'll handle our troops down there. Lantrell gets the rest of the downed engineers up and working on repairs, while in time for us to start seeing the bay doors being burned open. And oh boy, here we go, roll for initiative. I, being a trained leader and prepared for combat, and all the time somehow rolled almost dead last in initiative, which I thought was hilarious. It was Lantrell, the sniper crew, then 2 of the 3 squads of baddies, then me, my minion crew, and 1 last squadron of baddies. The entire fight, well, apparently were the world's biggest badass because it was hilariously one-sided. Snipers and Lantrell out so many minions that the first 2 groups were basically shredded. I didn't get off the best shot, but I managed to nearly fully pepper down a group as well and body block the medics who was about to get engaged on. Now, she almost went down, but managed to dive out of cover before the last shot could pepper her with my cover. Managed to stim pack heal herself back to full and took out the last dude. We're looking over at the engineers like, are you done yet? Since we don't know if we can get lucky again. Just hold him off a little longer, we think we almost have it. Fine. I know there's a bunch of equipment we gotta be careful around, but I can hear the sound of more soldiers coming, and I got a grenade. So wait until the last possible moment. As soon as I hear them right outside the door, I pull the pin and chuck it. I would say the grenade inside of a pressurized area like a spaceship would probably be a bad thing, but I kinda wanna see what happens. With a little bit of luck and a lot of smarts planting the grenade there, right as they clumped up next to the door, I got all of them and bang! All but one of them were immediately floored. All but the leader of the group, who had just a little more health than the rest of the plebs. We gunned him down with him only getting a lucky shot off at me, the big tanky boy that barely felt it. And finally we hear the whir of an engine coming back to life. We look over and the engineers are talking to each other, then after a moment they rush over to the intercom. Hyperdrive is down, head towards the escape pods, everyone abandon ship. So we book it. And as we make it to the escape pods, we hear a mass of feet running at us, and as we get inside and the doors close, we see a man in black armor and a cape coming around the corner. And with that, we eject from the ship, barely escaping death by Vader. Anyway, after that was done, 2 things our DM noted that made this even more amazing. He run this one shot several times in the past, and we were literally the only group who managed to stealth infiltrate from start to finish. Getting away from Vader isn't guaranteed. We were literally a single round away from getting pulverized, so if anything had gone just slightly different, we never would have made it out that alive. I'd like to consider the 3 of us incredible levels of badass as a result, and hope you enjoy my storytelling. It's the first time I tried talking about any of the tables I'm in like this, so I hope I did a good job of recounting everything for everyone. That was so fun to read. Oh my god, I didn't even have any moment to throw in commentary because I wanted to know more. I wanted to know the next step, and then the next step, and then the next step. Thank you so much for this submission, I really do appreciate it. I had some glory stories that were sent in email. If you want to submit your own, link down description below for the email. Also, if you want to submit your own personal horror stories, you're more than welcome to. Because, I mean, RPG horror stories Reddit sometimes can go down for whichever reasons or what have you. There could be another strike, you don't know. But at the end of the day, at least, we got some sort of line of communication. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales tomorrow. Bye-bye.